We say multi-generational as a way to distinguish the fact that each generation does have its own needs, and that we can bring them together in multiple ways, that we can offer multiple kinds of ministry for the different specific needs of the generations, but that we come together as a multitude of people and needs in every case.
When we think of intergenerational, we think of parents and their children, and everybody else doesn't show up for Sunday that week. So we wanted to make very clear that this was about ministering to the whole church, to all of our people, to all generations.
We structured the track the way that we did because we were interested in bringing what is the heart of congregational life, which is worship, into the conversation that we have in this setting that brings many congregations together.
Our first worship service was really about casting a theological vision for what we believe our moral imperative really is in our congregations, to be a radically welcoming, inclusive place that is a training ground for people to create the beloved community, or what we call the kingdom of God. Paradise. So our first worship service was about framing what paradise looks like.
In the Talmud, the ancient rabbis teach that whenever we encounter a large gathering of people, it is appropriate to offer the following blessing. Blessed is the wise one who understands secrets, for the mind of each is different from the other, just as the face of each is different from the other. Source of all life, out of many, you have made us one. You have created us splendidly in our distinctiveness. You have made us spectacular, a living tapestry, many colors and complexions, rich in languages and beliefs, varied in our blessings, challenged by our curses.
Indeed, the face of each one is different from the other, and here we gather, meeting face to face. Look around, see the beauty of faces, each one unique, reflecting the very image of the divine, each one from a common source, a single sacred family.
Yet behind every face hides so many secrets, private, painful secrets of suffering. If only we would find your wisdom, O God, revealing all the secrets, the pained suffering.
God, grant us your wisdom, that we may never forget that paradise happens out here, face to face among the people, as we join together in one spirit and write one shared story.
The story of a community that acts like a commonwealth, where secrets of private suffering, where tales of lonely anguish are joined through the power of the people, rising up together, encountering one another, face to face, and writing a new story, one story.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider.
2,000 million years ago, the earth was in crisis. The bacteria, the first life, dying off. And in that living and dying, whirling and swirling, moving and bumping and jostling, something extraordinary happened. One bacteria swallowed another, and instead of becoming eater and eaten, the swallowed bacteria became the center, the protector of the RNA, and the eukaryote was born. And another extraordinary thing happened. A different kind of bacteria arose, an oxygen-eating bacteria, mitochondria. And the mitochondria moved in with the eukaryotes, became the oxygen-eating engine of the very first cells. And then, hundreds of millions of years ago, the cells in the whirling and swirling and bumping and jostling and living and dying energy, creating and energy using, began to link together. But the whirling and swirling and the bumping and jostling and the learning to create new and ever more complex creatures, it continued. It continued then, and it continues to this day. Even within our own bodies, whirling and swirling and bumping and jostling, energy, using energy, creating inside you and inside me. So I'm going to invite you to think about that, about the unexpected that brought you here, about some moment in your life when something happened, two things bumped together, and all of a sudden you went off in a whole new direction. Maybe you met someone. Maybe you tried something you'd never tried before. Maybe an event happened. Maybe you met a challenge. Maybe it was a tragedy. But there are things in your life that sent you in a whole new direction, caused you to recreate, in a sense, who you are. I want you to think about one of those moments, and it could have happened in an instant or taken years in the unfolding. But I want you to think about a recreation experience of your own.
We've all just expanded our own personal circles by choosing to include the story of another. What a blessing, what a gift to be together. Rebecca Parker at the Laredo Fall Conference described paradise in this world as an ecology of blessing, interaction, diversity, and vitality, created and infused by the spirit of life. An ecology of blessing, interaction, diversity, and vitality, created and infused by the spirit of life. For too long, she tells us, we've been living as if paradise was anywhere but here, that it's some otherworldly realm that can be entered through mortal sacrifice or pious living, but can't be fully experienced here and now. But the work of every group of faithful people has been to build at least an image of that promised land, that paradise, right here, right now, in our communities of faith. Our own faith tradition in particular has some powerful teachings for us here. Our Unitarian roots tell us that we need not wait for a singular Messiah's return to find paradise, because we, children of God, are equipped with all that we need in the example of Jesus and the prophets before him, to be God's hands and feet and heart and mind right here on earth. Our Universalist roots remind us that our souls seek union with one another in the divine, that there's a force of love that can call us together past all of the wrongs we might do or might have done, a force of love that embraces and holds us all in care as precious children and asks us only to do the same for one another. When we take those two strands of our own religious history together, we realize that though our language may have changed, the powerful calling of our faith is to build paradise in this world. Not beyond us, not something that we expect to have given to us whole in some imagined future, but built with our hearts, with our hands, with each choice we make as we wake up each morning and weave the story of our people out of the diverse tales of our lives. Paradise is created as we wake up and decide who and what we want to be in the world. One way or another, we've all come to the happy realization that in our search for a community where we can bring all of who we are, Unitarian Universalist faith community has fit the bill. Whether it's for reasons of theology or music or the physical space of the sanctuary we entered, we've planted ourselves in a congregation and called it home. Most of us would say that what drew us to the faith was its openness, the fact that all are welcome, that we don't presume agreement on everything or demand allegiance to a particular creed. And so we arrive with a sense that we've found a place of peace and bliss, with the diversity of thought and spiritual path that we've craved, the vibrant community we want to be part of, the historic building that feels so marvelously storied, or the modern one that holds none of that baggage. It's not too long, though, before we start to notice that this diversity of thought and belief that we sought out so eagerly, the very thing that made it possible for us ourselves to be welcomed so fully, contributes to some bumping and jostling and tension and friction. For some, it's immediate and theological, which in my congregation is sitting with the words of Christian scripture painted on the walls. For others, it's the day when no one mentions God at all, or someone inadvertently slights Christianity. But more likely, the bumping and jostling doesn't have a whole lot to do with theology. It has more to do with the challenge we all face, living in community with those pesky folks who just aren't us. There's the crying baby in the sanctuary when we're craving a quiet hour to listen to words and music that take us deep, making room in our hearts and our spirits for musical styles or sermon topics that just aren't our cup of tea. The challenge of finding a spiritual home for both ourselves and our children. Some of us want our children to be with us in worship each and every week. Others want nothing more than to know that the children are well cared for somewhere else. The sense of danger in this bumping and jostling might seem minimal and, in fact, comical as we all sit here together, unfortunately with no children among us. But with each new bump and jostle as we enter into deeper and deeper relationship in community, there does seem to be more at stake. It's not an altogether unreasonable request to be able to come and lay your burdens down. It's certainly understandable. And when we come with that greater need, the need to be seen and heard, the need to matter, the need for quiet, the need to connect, and we feel that need not being met, the danger is felt deep and real. The urge toward competition, born of the anxiety that we won't get that need met when we arrive at church on Sunday or on Wednesday or any other day of the week. That anxiety is powerful. It's at this point that our biological roots can guide our actions a bit. No one knows to what extent the choice between competition and collaboration is really a choice in nature. Most of us haven't been able to converse with the mitochondria or the eukaryotes. It looks like random chance as we observe it biologically. But we know that we have the power to choose. We can turn toward collaboration rather than competition. We can consider the gifts of the richness of our differences and choose to move in together, to create a new story that might surprise us. We have on Sunday mornings, at least in our congregation and probably in many of yours, at least 5 generations under one roof. Maybe not in the same room, but we have an opportunity to connect across those differences if we have opportunities across no others. I have to admit that I was quite ignorant of the power of this fact when I began to serve in parish ministry. The only thing I learned in seminary about the intergenerational nature of church community was that it represented tension. The older folks want things the way they've always been. The younger folks want something totally exciting and new. The boomers in the middle want to each have it their own way. With a wry and weary, been there, done that grin, the seminary professors just offered us, good luck navigating that. Let us know how you do. They didn't tell us of how great the anxiety is that different generations can cause for one another. Teenagers, in particular, tend to raise some anxieties among adults. With their frank, honest, and deep questions, they can remind us of how little we really do have figured out. Forging relationships with teenagers we're not in charge of raising offers us a chance to share our lives, our lessons, and our vulnerability. It demands of us that we be engaged in deeply living our own lives so that we ourselves do have some substance to share, even if that substance is just a big question mark. Elders can often make those of us finding our way there to elderhood also anxious. They offer a reminder of our mortality, of the unwelcome way that the body slows and stops cooperating with our every wish. They might also remind us of the demands of our own parents and our failure to meet them. Many complicated things those anxieties are laden with. What my seminary teachers didn't seem to understand was that the way that being in relationship across generations can give us healing insights to the rifts in our own families. Time and time again, I've seen friendships forged across the generations that offered opportunities for middle-aged adults to care and be cared for by an elder, offering them insights into the relationships with their own parents and offering them healing and hope when they thought all was lost. There are all kinds of ways we can be part of the cosmic urge toward collaboration that helps us to survive, teaches us new ways to thrive, and invites us into deep awe and appreciation of the complicated and never-ending gifts of life. There are all kinds of ways that we, like those mitochondria and eukaryotes, can move in together to let ourselves know and be known across the differences we're told have to divide us. When we take the time and the trouble to come out of ourselves, to let go of the strain of competition, the anxiety of losing ourselves, and invite one another to join us in the dance of multi-generational community, we practice the ongoing creation of the world. We influence the generations to come by offering them stronger, deeper stories as roots that they might use to nurture their own seeds. We honor the generations that came before by carrying their hard-won wisdom with us into new places, strengthening the life to come out of the experience of the past. And we build a practice. This is the most important thing. We build a practice that Rebecca Parker calls the practice of being citizens of paradise, that can guide us as we work toward every other kind of diversity we seek. Knowing, telling, risking ourselves to be in relationship, to forge connections, to strengthen our being is holy work. It is of nature, and it is of God. Most of all, my friends, it is ours to do.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song, no one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide.
And then all that has divided us will merge.
And then compassion will be wedded to power.
And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind.
And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old.
And then all will nourish the young.
And then all will cherish life's creatures.
And then all will live in harmony with each other and with the earth.
And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.